A very good morning to all. It is my pleasure to have everyone on the sixth edition of the Nutrition Conference 2021. It is my honor now to invite our Honorable Chief Guest, Dr. Chindi Vasudevappa. He is the Honorable Vice Chancellor for National Institute of Food Technology, Entrepreneurship and Management, NIFTEM. He has completed his graduation and post-graduation program in fisheries science in the year 1974 and 1976, respectively. Initially, he's worked as an extension specialist in Karnataka government with a focus on promotion of aquaculture technology amongst the farming community for 6 years. He's currently the Vice Chancellor for NIFTEM and responsible for creating a cordial working atmosphere amongst faculty and industry, an established contract research organization. He's also established NTI BIF at NIFTEM. He's got about 47 years plus of experience. Over to you, Dr. Chindi. I see Dr. Chindi is unable to join currently. We can wait for 2 minutes for him to rejoin the session. I request all the attendees to please stay on the session, and we will have Dr. Chindi joining in soon. Thank you for your patience. Also, to the time Dr. Chindi joins in, I request all the attendees to be active on the event feed and on the chat box here for all your questions over the 2 days, so that all our speakers can reply back or answer the questions posed in the Q&A rounds after every session. Have a look at the agenda for the 2 days that we have further. And I'm sure any sessions, all the sessions and all the speakers are to be rated also. It'll be an honor. We've got many contests coming along the way. I request all attendees to make sure that you guys participate in all the contests and win vouchers on behalf of Informa Markets. We're expecting Dr. Chindi to join in soon.
If it is there, I'll have to limit it.
Welcome back, Dr. Chindi.
Yeah. So some internet problems.
No problem. I've announced that you'll be joining back soon. I request you to start sharing your screen and you can start your presentation as soon as time.
Okay. Okay. Please allow us to share the screen.
Yes. It's already done. Yes. Can you now share?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Over to you, Dr. Chindi.
Yeah. Thank you and good morning. Good morning, everybody, all the delegates, both national and international. And at the outset, let me apologize for the internet glitches which I had. And again, we got it reconnected. And I wish things are okay and my presentation is visible. Is it okay? Yeah. We know that the food is an essential part of life, especially for maybe the better nutrition and survival and good health and all that. So that means food has become very important for us for day to day. But of course, food has even become a very significant modifiable risk factor in development of some of the diseases. That is something I would say could be the chronic diseases like the diabetes, cardiovascular disease, or even the cancer disease and things like that. Food has become the prime suspect. So that means we need to be very cautious about what is that we really need, how is that we need to take our food and things like that. Of course, science has really proved and demonstrated that personalized nutrition is likely to contribute to a full healthy life. That means personal nutrition now, of course, we have gone to the level where we are looking towards the a sort of a nutrition which is for a particular individual, not the mass nutrition. So something like that, probably one thing is that is true now today. One side fits for all is not the concept. So that means we are shifting from this to a targeted approach, especially addressing the nutritional requirements and things like that. So the value-based healthcare is a real healthcare delivery framework, probably that incentivizes the healthcare providers to give a focus on quality of services as opposed to the quantity. That means quality becomes very, very important to address the personalized nutrition. And of course, it supports three aims. That is the triple aim: better care for individuals, that is there because we are personalizing the whole issue. And then, of course, the better health for populations. That means we are trying to come up with a good health, healthy populations. Of course, the last part is very important. It should be at the low cost. So these are all very important, especially when we go for a value-based healthcare system. Of course, personalized nutrition is an approach to provide value-based healthcare and nutrition to the population as well. So that's where we are trying to address. And of course, looking to the personalized nutrition, what is that it really does? It will help or assist individuals in achieving a lasting dietary behavior change that is beneficial for health over a longer period of time. That is very, very important, because I know always the personalized nutrition should address all the nutritional requirements of the human body, which will help and benefit for a better health of the individual. Of course, the second part is like the personalized nutrition tailors dietary recommendations to specific biological requirements. Of course, human body is a biological system. Probably this will help to promote maintenance of health and prevention of diseases. That's where I think we look towards the personalized nutrition and its importance. And of course, that apart, I would say nutritional management of diet-related chronic diseases. This is something, again, this is getting into more of the clinical part of it, to treat people who are already having chronic diseases, and where we can considerably improve the health status, and including maybe better addressing the genomic data of a particular individual. That's what I feel is very, very important. And that apart, of course, one diet doesn't fit for all, I think is the slogan today, nowadays. Probably you can see on the left side, the issues related to the climate, the pollution, and things like that. In addition to that, probably the individual, I would say, sort of the characteristics or the bionomics part of it could be the gut microbiome, health and metabolism, and of course, the gender, again, it influences that part, of course, the genetics, the DNA part of it. And this always is influenced by I would say, the capability of an individual in terms of the financial support, or maybe the culture in which they are living, and maybe I think the stress levels and emotional state. This is something which is becoming very, very important these days. And of course, the food intake and the age of the individual. And that apart, I think the exercise and the sport which he is getting endured, I think that really decides a lot of these issues. And the overall objective is, of course, the personalized nutrition is that to preserve or increase the sound health using genetic and phenotypic. Phenotypic is the body structure, or maybe the medical, nutritional, and other relevant information. Probably if you look at the whole factors which are associated with this, could be the age, and of course the gender again matters very much. Maybe between male and female there could be variations. And the genetics, again, the family history and the background and things like that. And of course, the environment, which drives in a lot of other issues, including the disease and even the emotions and the behavioral part of it. I think these things have to be properly understood for a better personalized nutrition. And of course, this is where I think the factors which are maybe worth, especially for precision nutrition, if you look at probably, I think nutrigenomics is something which is very, very important and gaining attention nowadays. And the food behavior, I think these are the two things. Of course, the metabolomics. These three issues really decide how actually the precision nutrition plate could be. And maybe it involves a lot of microbiota, or including, I would say, the dietary habits of the individual, the physical activity of the individual, and of course, deep phenotyping, the characteristics of the individual. So all these will decide the precision nutrition plate for a personalized nutrition. That's what is very important. And of course, the techniques involved are simple, I would say. Of course, there are many, I would say, techniques which have really become very important nowadays. Could be the collection of data to address the personalized nutrition, could be through a questionnaire-based analysis of lifestyles, and maybe the DNA analysis per se, and the blood biomarkers, and of course, the microbiome profiling, and maybe the physical activity which he is undergoing, and the dietary records. And all these things, the data which is created, it will definitely will be involved in tailoring the nutrition part of the individual. That means the personalized nutrition. And the scientific advances, probably, if you look at on personalization, this is something which, of course, we are addressing, or we are looking forward on a day-to-day basis. Diagnostic and monitoring tools, which have become very, very important, especially to enable the collection of data that can be used in personalized nutrition. And of course, digital capability, especially addressing the connectivity and communication between personalized nutrition, and also between them and the consumers, the nutrition providers and the consumers. This is again has become important. Of course, the nutrigenomics, I know, food related to the genetic part of it, or the behavioral part of it, enables the analysis of phenotypic, genotypic, environmental, and behavioral data to understand nutritional needs. And of course, modifying food, I think, of course, this is where we always look towards maybe the nutraceuticals and the biofortification, and including, I would say, even the general fortification of food, and which will help in modifying the target nutritional profiles. This is something which again is becoming important. Of course, the other driving factors could be the advances in food analytics, which nowadays, of course, the food analytics is really becoming a very important area for understanding the science behind the nutrition or the food and nutrition-based diseases and public health programs. Of course, these are all things which are for the population. We need to understand these things and also look at the disease vis-a-vis the public health programs, how actually they are addressing that. I think that is something which is very, very important. And advances in application of information technology in food science. This again, of course, we are even the creation of the big data itself is something which is an information technology driven program, which can help us
Sorry for the technical issue at Dr. Chindi's end. He will be back again in a few minutes. Yeah, please cooperate. Thank you. Dr. Chindi, you can continue. You're on mute, sir. Can you hear me? Kindly unmute yourself. On the bottom left, you will see unmute option. Can you unmute, please? To all the audience, by the time sir is trying to share the screen, it is a request if you can keep posting questions on the question and tab so that sir can answer them all in some time.
okay?
Yes,
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
If you could just share your screen again.
Yeah. Share the screen. Got disconnected.
Yes, I think the network. Yes.
Okay, visible?
Yes, just full screen the same, please.
Okay.
Perfect.
So I'll continue. Okay. Let me just, I think maybe this I have completed. Techniques involved. Okay, fine. Of course, coming to the pipeline for personalized nutrition. probably you can see both the sides of the drawing. The human body, in fact, it is being influenced, of course, one by the diet, second is the microbiome and the doctors, the interventions and laboratory reports, physical activity, and wearable sensors. I think these are things which are becoming more and more important, especially these days when we are trying to address some of the issues. Of course, this is again, we need to look at the artificial intelligence algorithms. That is something, probably all these, the data which is connected need to be, just probably analyzed through artificial intelligence algorithms, which can give us the individual targeted personal advice. So this is something which I think is the latest development, probably for a personalized nutrition. And of course, the features to be really personalized are one, of course, the ingredients. We need to really understand which are the ingredients which are essentially required in the nutrition, and also the nutrient profiling of these the ingredients and how exactly it meets the requirement. That is something which is very, very important. That means the level of incorporation of ingredients has to be looked in based on the nutrient profile that is to be addressed. And the health goals, of course, then of course the portion size, that means the meal size. What should be the meal size? And of course the taste of it, and it should be palatable, and it should be acceptable, and it should be readily digestible, and things like that. And of course, that apart, there could be many supplements which are to be added. Could be the vitamin D, vitamin A, and all those things can be part of the thing. Of course, that apart, the cooking techniques, I think, which really decides, I would say, the food quality and food safety. And the value chain, of course, for personalized nutrition is now, there are 4 or 5 links which need to be properly understood. Of course, first is the data collection, which I would say is the most important in the present day circumstances. Otherwise, without data, we will not be able to especially address the problem. Could be on the health and lifestyle history, dietary habits, maybe the nutrient intake, of course, the physical activity and the vitals, genetic profiling, of course, the microbiome, all these things. So this becomes the data. And nowadays, we depend on individual data, not the big data, which can really decide what should be. Of course, the conclusions are drawn on based on the big data. And of course, the collection devices could be the blood profiling or metabolic profiling, genome testing, and things like that. Maybe there could be many other, I would say, methods through which we can collect the data of an individual. Of course, data analytics and recommendations. This, again, the data which is collected, unless it is properly analyzed, the recommendations can go wrong. That's where the data science becomes very, very important. Clinical, medical insights and evidences become very important. And probably the artificial intelligence, which I told you already, is again, and even the machine learning nowadays is picking up a lot of attention. So the recommendations could be the diet and meal plans that is there, and the supplements, what they should be taking, and the fitness programs. Of course, this is becoming mandatory nowadays, and the personal, I would say, coaching. So that means these are all things to be properly managed. Unless these are all linked, then probably you will not be able to really address the personalized nutrition. And then, of course, the customized nutrition solutions. So, of course, we always talk about the mass customization of supplements, drinks, food, and diet plans. Sometimes this requires a modification based on the individual data profiles. And then that apart, of course, the distributed small scale delivery systems. These are all things which need to be understood. Of course, ingredients and raw materials become most important in addressing some of these issues. And the product delivery system, of course, could be anything, online or retail or pharmacies or direct to the consumer, and delivery services, hospitals, and things like that. They can deliver these issues. And of course, biology view on personalized nutrition. Of course, there are 2 things which are very, very important. The first, of course, is the nutrients, which is the base, the bottom. And of course, the personalized nutrition of the consumer, that is something which is very, very important, where we look at, I would say, the weight management, maybe the cholesterol management, the lipid flexibility, glucose flexibility, and blood pressure, and all that. And in between, it can be modified. It can be a flexible platform where some of these things, supplements can be brought in, or some new things can be brought in into the diet and things like that for developing the muscle, maybe the vasculature, and of course, reducing the adipose and enhancing the pancreas activity, liver, and the gut. I think these are all things which work on an interactive basis. Probably, I think these things finally lead to a good diet, which can really address the personalized nutrition. And probably, I think the grains and nuts, or the meat, fish, and things like that, or the leafy vegetables, fruits, and dairy products, and things like that, they form the source of the nutrients, which are mostly connected to the diets. So, of course, for 4 interacting layers, which I just said, are used to demonstrate the connection between personal nutrition, the best consumer goals, and of course the nutrients. This is how I think the whole the system works. And of course, personal nutrition, again, if you look at in relation to the physical activity, probably I think this is something which is becoming very important nowadays. One could be the protein recommendation, the other could be the carbohydrate recommendation. That means if it is to improve the muscle strength, probably we need to go for the protein recommendations and things like that. If the endurance level has to be decided based on the carbohydrate recommendation, probably I think the energy part of it, that is very, very important. Of course, exercise type and all that need to be decided, maybe the duration, frequency, and intensity, and also even the consumption timing. This is becoming very, very important. Maybe prior, during, or post. Maybe I think it depends again, the number of the meals which he has to take and things like that. This will decide, I would say, the nutritional part of it, personal nutrition. And actionable approaches can be, of course, already I have just discussed these issues, surveys and diet trackers. I think survey questionnaires and monitoring with food trackers, I think, is something which is becoming very, very important nowadays. And I think the nutrigenetics and nutrigenomics for important individual metabolism to clear all that. Probably that is again another very important thing. Of course, the nutrigenetics and nutrigenomics, it's just defined as the science of the effect of genetic variation on dietary response and the role of nutrients and bioactive food compounds in gene expression. I think this is a high level science where we look into the cell biome per se, or the cell structure itself, and probably we understand the genetics part of it, and also I would say the food, actually the gene expression by itself per se. I think these are all things which are very important and which can really help us in a sort of advancing our knowledge with regard to nutritional profiling or personalized nutrition. This is very important. And that apart, of course, there are issues like disease risk prediction. Probably, I think this is using genetics and biomarkers. These things have been very important nowadays. And in fact, I would say the genetics part is always now in a state of life is becoming more and more important for the human health, to understand the requirements of the human health. Of course, the biomarkers are becoming more and more, and in fact, we were all talking about the markers for the plant-assisted, the genomics and things like that. Now, even the human body genomics need to be understood with a proper biomarkers that will help us to understand. And of course, the microbiome predicts response to diets. This is something which is very deep again. Probably the diet response of the body to the diet. I think that is something which is very, very important. Probably that is where I think we need to look at things very seriously, so that the response of the body or the human structure to the diets become very, very important. Otherwise, maybe I think it becomes a wasted nutrition. That should not happen. So the nutritional products and of course feed the good microbes and starve the bad ones, for even to introduce new ones through probiotics. This is something again which is important, the probiotics or the prebiotics and things like that, which will, the mechanism need to be understood properly, how to support or how to suppress some of the microbes or the microbiome which is there in the gut microflora. I think this again calls for a real proper understanding. And of course, metabolomic phenotyping to predict diet. I think this is again, see, the metabolomic analytical techniques, researchers can measure thousands of metabolites and create rich data, which tries for deep understanding of physiological responses. However, this approach is highly complicated and very, very expensive. I know, because metabology always is an analytical technique which, especially the metabolites which are created, and the levels of the intensity and the levels of metabolites which get accumulated in the body. I think these are all things which really require a lot of science behind it. And direct quantification of blood biomarkers and nutrients. This is again another big area. Ideally, quantifying nutrient blood levels using standard commercial lab tests or direct to consumer test at home, and probably make a recommendation which is the preferred way. So that again becomes very, very important. And the outcome, of course, the 4 real outcomes which come out of such of these, the data which can be used for developing, I would say, the personalized nutrition. One, of course, could be the management of metabolic diseases. That is something, again, it's very important. So, of course, again, the whole body, basal metabolism, and when the food is given, the enhanced metabolism, and of course, these are all things, and the intensive metabolism. These things become very, very important, probably, to understand the especially the metabolites and the food which really gets digested, gets absorbed, and things like that. That apart, of course, management of diseases and its complications. I think these are all, again, another very important area where we need to really understand the disease on one side and the complications which can create to the body. So that means, again, it becomes a more of a phenotypic or a genetic sort of sort of an understanding, which will help us to understand how best we can really improve our health. Monitoring of dietary habits and adherence to nutritional interventions. I think this is, again, I think this is what finally we arrive at. Probably the dietary habits need to be checked, and the adherence to the nutritional interventions could be in terms of value, in terms of protein, in terms of carbohydrate, in terms of combination of various nutrients and things like that. Probably that is one thing which we have to really, of course, that finally probably the delivering eating behavior through e-coaching. These things become very, very important. It's more an awareness building exercise which can be done. And probably, I think now the dietitians or the personal nutritionists probably have to look at these things, which I would say are very, very important. And of course, the challenges can be like, of course, reductionist approach. This is something which always we feel that we are trying to understand the requirements and come with the minimum. Reductionist approach addresses the issue. And that apart, of course, this is again based on the data-driven technology will definitely support. Of course, the challenge too can be need for personalized nutrition infrastructure. This again calls for too much of, I would say, scientific interventions. Naturally, a lot of expenditure and cost is involved. Still we are not geared up to that level of creating an infrastructure exclusively for the personalized nutrition. That, I think, is an area where we need to really do something. And challenge 3 could be data standardization and need for training. I think this is again the information technology and probably all the internet of the IoTs and things like that, which are becoming very, very important. Of course, apart from that, of course, the data sparsity and need for improvement. I think this is where we are into probably data requirement is there, and still we have not developed that sort of a database. That means we have not gone into the concept of big data, which can provide us all this information, even to address, I would say, the population nutrition. Of course, the future requirements, of course, not much to say here, but we know still, I would say, we are addressing these issues, still, I would say, not a very large scale, and identification of the most critical factors has become very, very important in personalization of the process involved. That is something very, very important. And of course, novel and more reliable tools to monitor, to collect the information, to monitor the food intake and all that has to be done. This is again a very important area. And the development and implementation of tools to collect data, especially I would say to collect and analyze the biological samples. I think it's not only collection of data, even the analysis part of it. And of course, quantification and modeling of multiple biomarkers. This has become a very serious science by itself. And of course, personalized nutrition into routine clinical care. I think these are all interconnected and probably which need to be properly understood, addressed, and only then we will be able to come up with a real, I would say, a targeted personalized nutrition on an individual basis or a body-to-body basis. I think that is where we are today. And in fact, I would say personalized nutrition has become very, very important, especially people where the whole body doesn't as a complete unit and creates a problem which can result in the form of diseases. And probably this is where I think we need to really look at it seriously. So with this, thank you very much. And I wish all the very best. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for an insightful session. I am sure there are many more questions, but I'd like to take one. The question is, overeating of food at the higher temperature develops the nitrosamine impurities. Do comment on the same.
Yeah, I know always overeating is not good. Naturally, the whole system is at a greater risk or as a greater activity. Could be a metabolic activity or the digestive process and things like that, which can always generate higher temperature. And it has a negative effect than the positive impact on the body. So negative in the sense, the food that is there, you cannot digest it properly. That means the digestion process is affected. That means the digestive cell lining, which is there, which is supposed to absorb and provide the nutrients, could be in terms of protein, fats, carbohydrates, whatever, okay. And even the minerals part of it and the vitamins, they do not reach I would say, the targeted organs of the body. That means the growth is affected naturally, and you're always at risk of health hazards. And maybe you're always at risk of even managing your own body. That's where it leads to a lot of other, I would say, issues. It could even impact the gut microflora per se, which is not well equipped to even digest that food. Probably that is one thing we need to really understand. Eating more always is bad. Could be in terms of physiological impact, or could be in terms of microbiological impact, could be in terms of the absorption impact, or could be in terms of per se in the body. That's what I think.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for joining us and making this event more successful with your presence. We now sign off from the session and move on to the next session. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Take care.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye. Thank you.